Hello, my beautiful friends. Welcome back to the show. Today, I am so excited to dive into today's conversation with Karli Braaten. Karli is a dedicated photographer who has been on a remarkable photographic journey, expertly documenting the beauty of pregnancy and the precious moments of newborns since 2012. Her passion for capturing the unique glow and emotions that come with pregnancy is at the heart of her work, making her a sought-after maternity photographer. She specializes in belly-to-baby photography, ensuring that each stage of this remarkable journey is preserved in a timeless and enchanting manner. Her artistry has not gone unnoticed, as her work has been prominently featured in various esteemed publications, leaving a lasting impact on her audience. Beyond her photographic talents, Karli is an esteemed educator in the field of photography, with a particular emphasis on optimizing session efficiency and creating a diverse array of captivating images. Her deep love for celebrating the beauty of pregnancy and the joy of welcoming a new life into the world shines through every frame she captures, making her a trusted name in the world of maternity and newborn photography. My friends, I am so excited to dive into this conversation. So without further ado, here's Karli. Welcome.
Right. Hi, everyone. My name is Karli Braaten, and I am a maternity photographer and newborn photographer here located in Washington State, the beautiful Evergreen state, which is what my business name is named after, Studio Evergreen. I am a connoisseur of the belly. I am a baby whisperer, and I love all things that have to do with maternity and newborn photography.
I love that. So how did you find your love for maternity and newborn? Like, how did you get started in that?
Well, like most of us, it was with the birth of my child. I feel like 90% of newborn photographers start with their own children. I did dabble in it a little bit right out of high school, actually, but I was not very good, and I was very nervous to touch the babies. So when my son was born, I realized, okay, they're not as breakable as we think, and it's okay to shush them and to wrap them. And I figured out all of the techniques just by being a mom, which is what most of us do. So I started in my living room, actually, off of couch cushions and natural light, and finding things from Target or, from Goodwill, which is a big one, and didn't even know that there was a whole industry on props, which it wasn't that big back then, but it was amazing. And I started from the ground up, and I did friends' babies and neighbors' babies, and I put ads out on moms groups, and it just kind of flourished from there. And I found this love for it from a very young age too, for just photography in general. But I've been very blessed to have captured, I think I'm almost at 400 babies now, which is wonderful, and well more pregnancies than that.
I love that. So you really dial in, especially with maternity photography. So can you share maybe your approach of capturing that essence of that is so uniquely your work in your photography, and how you work with clients to get that out of them too?
Yes, absolutely. The artistry of maternity is something very, very special. It goes beyond just a normal portrait, because you have to make sure that your subject is first off comfortable with you even taking photographs of them. And when you're pregnant, I'm sure all of us can attest to this, it is extremely difficult to feel comfortable in your own skin. So that's my first thing. When moms walk through the door, I want to make sure that they know who I am. They've read the blog posts to help them get prepared, because most of the time a woman who comes into the studio for the first time has never had a professional shoot before. And if they did, then maybe it was outdoors or couples or Christmas, but it was never to the intimate level that we get into for 2 hours, with me in my studio. So I think the first and foremost thing is comfortability with women, just making sure that they know that they're in a safe space, that they're with somebody that is going to empower them, that is going to bring out the best in them, and that is not going to judge them for whatever they may be going through. So I think the connection is most important with the moms. And then also having a really deep knowledge of how photography works, how different angles make a huge difference with, the way that we see ourselves and the way the camera sees. And also the creative editing style is a huge part of it too. And making sure that you're creating unique pieces of artwork for each pose that you're doing. But all of that while maintaining a good business structure and staying in a good process is a very hard balance to do. So that's something that I really try to strive for, is as an artist to not just be an artist, but to also make sure that, we're taking care of business too.
I know it's such that tricky balance of trying to be like not only efficient with your time, but also like creatively free, because
Yes,
creatively free takes a little, like it takes a little longer sometimes, and you're just kind of like adjusting and playing and yeah, so I've experienced that too myself. So when it comes to making your clients feel comfortable, I have to ask, what did you do before you were a photographer? Because I sometimes wonder if that comes into play with how we approach our photography.
That's actually funny because I sometimes think about that too. Customer service for years. That's number one.
Yeah.
And then secondly, medical. I worked in a hospital and in a clinic for a long time. And well, to be completely honest, I started photography career right out of high school. So I knew that was what I wanted to do full time. But then throughout the medical career, I thought, okay, this will be my full-time job, and then I'll be a photographer on the side. And that worked out for, a short period of time. But I think connecting with patients was a really big part of it, because you never know what they're going through. And a lot of times people are very embarrassed to be going to the doctor, to the hospital for various number of reasons. But I think it's really important that, hold on, I'm going to restart that. I think it's really important to show all people kind of respect, and no matter what stage of life or walk of life or whatever they're doing. And so I definitely believe that background helped quite a bit with that. And also childcare. I worked in childcare for a while too, so that helps with the kids.
Totally.
Knowing that they need to be silly and, comfortable with you as a person as well.
Completely. Well, I think even having like the medical background approach and probably dealing with, nude or semi-nude clients too, there's definitely more of a level of comfortability with people when you have had that experience. I used to be an esthetician, so it would be like, hi, I'm Lisa, it's time for your like wax and Brazilian. So, or like just get naked because I'm going to give you a massage. Like, so when I started approaching my photography business, I was like, oh yeah, of course you're going to do semi-nude or nude, right? Like we're cool. Like I'm cool. But I think that if I hadn't had that experience and my comfortability level, and the reason I asked this is this was actually a question that we had an email about. And I was like, that is so interesting, because I forget that not everybody comes from that same level of approach with dealing with people, not only with customer service or just their past experience of being with nude or semi-nude bodies.
Right. Absolutely.
So many of us really struggle with self-image and feeling confident now, especially when we're pregnant. So what role does body positivity and self-acceptance play in your approach to your maternity photography?
Yes, this is a great question. So as a mother myself too, I struggled with body positivity throughout both of my pregnancies with my kids. And so I know firsthand how it feels when your body is changing, everything is stretching and it's weird and it's wonderful. But at the same time, it's so hard to take that step in front of a camera and trust the person on the other end of the lens that they've got you, that they know what angles are going to look best, that, maybe your chin is slightly tilted too much to where you can see up your nose. All of those small, very fine details play a huge role into it. But I think the most important thing is to show moms the back of the camera. I know that some photographers are a little bit weird about this, but I am huge about it. I think it's so important to show them like, hey, this is a raw file, but look how good you look, and hype them up the whole time of the session and just give them the compliments that they probably don't hear on a day-to-day basis. I'm totally not calling out the husbands, but typically that's a girl compliment. You're going to hear that from your customers or your colleagues or your girlfriends. And sometimes it isn't said enough. So when you hear it from the professional that is creating the artwork and say, you are a subject worth capturing for me, I am intrigued in you, that says wonders. Because imagine, if I guess Picasso probably isn't a good, but an artist, a very famous artist, came up to someone and said, I want to capture you in my artwork. I want to paint you on a canvas. You have to be in my art studio. Then for them, that's such a huge booster for them
Yeah.
emotionally. So I feel the same way. I'm like, you're going to be on a canvas. You're going to be on display in my studio. You're going to be on display in your own home. And that's the biggest compliment anyone could receive, is to perceive themselves as beauty and art, which they are. It's such an important time of their life, and
Yes.
everyone deserves to be, pampered in that way.
Absolutely. Now, showing the client the back of the camera is so beneficial. And part of the reason is because if they aren't loving what they're seeing, even though you might be, they can point it out right in the session. So you can start
Yes.
tweaking your session right away
Exactly.
versus, sending that whole gallery back and then being like, you know what, actually, I like taking selfies from the left. And I probably should have told you that because you've taken every photo from the right side.
Exactly.
Right? So like
Yes.
having those conversations and like not holding those images, I don't want to say hostage, but being able to show them like during the session is so beneficial to like not having that negative feedback later. Now,
Right.
have you had a situation where you have had a client not love their images after their session, and how did you deal with it if you've had it?
I have. It hasn't been recently. I would say it was in the beginning years before I knew a whole lot of posing.
Yeah.
And I'll segue really quickly into why I'm such a nerd about posing.
Yeah.
Because the number one comment I used to get when I was doing outdoor photography and starting in studio with just maternity in general, I was a little bit scared of pregnant moms, even though I was one myself at the time. Being able to direct them was really hard.
Yeah.
So I think the number one feedback that I've gotten is my posing is way too similar. And I've actually said this to my students, and I also tell it to moms too. When I first started, I would tell moms, okay, so with maternity photography, there's only really one pose. It's one hand on top and one hand on the bottom. And you pop your knee like this. And that's really it. Like I wouldn't do a whole lot of variation. So I think a lot of it would be repetitiveness.
Yeah.
And so that was my number one complaint would be repetitiveness. And then the second one would probably be the facial expressions, which I do go over that in my classes as well. Because if a mom doesn't really see what she's doing and she thinks that the duck lips look good, which, that's the millennial way to be. But if you don't instruct them properly, so back in the early days, I was like, okay, just pose naturally, or I would say a lot of ums and ahs and, well, how do you usually take your selfies when we're the expert? And so I think just having some sense of strategy for one, and also a sense of just professionalism. You know what you're doing. You know how to direct your clients, and you also have a whole arsenal behind you in order to, because you're the person that is supposed to know what to do. So I would say that is the biggest complaint, is not having an upper hand in my sessions and kind of letting it be client driven versus professional driven.
Completely. For me, I was the exact same way when I was first starting. It was literally one hand went over, one hand under. And I think it must have been a Creative Live, like back in like 2011 or something. And I think it may have been Sue Bryce. I can't quite remember, but I remember watching a video about transitional posing and like always like just keeping the client moving and like running their hand over their body, and then and you just kind of like, I don't want to say machine gun it, because you're just taking a lot of photos very quickly. So you're changing up the look very, very, very quickly.
Right. Absolutely. And that's so important, because I've watched students during one-on-ones where they're like, I'm just going to assess you and see what you're doing. And the number one thing that photographers do is they do a pose, then they're like, and they look back at me and they're like, expecting like, what do I do next? And that's so difficult, because, we start off just wanting to capture art, and lighting itself is a hard enough feat, which is totally true. Right. But then the whole other aspect is knowing how to pose your clients and how to direct them too, into like not the most uncomfortable, things. So what I actually do now is I actually pose myself with my clients. So if there's any behind the scenes videos or pictures of me on the internet, it's with one leg popped or I'm on the floor with them, like laying on the floor, that I'm like, stay right there. And then I'll get up and shoot it. So I think moving with direction, leading by example is something that clients love. They love seeing it because they just mirror, and that's so easy for them. They feel like they're not the only one in the room doing it, and it is a big benefit during sessions.
Completely. You know what I just about almost bought was one of those like silicone bellies
Yes.
off of the internet. Like I just about ordered one from Amazon and I'm like, should I? I don't know. So like a few years ago, oh my gosh, my husband, he walked into the bathroom and I was in the shower and I had the shower thing open and I'm like looking at myself in the bathroom. I'm like maternity posing in it. He's like, what are you doing? I was like, I'm just practicing.
Yep. That's the perfect way to do it. That's what I do too. And I do that in my mirrors. I do it for my behind the scenes videos. Like everything I do is all practice for posing. And if there's a new trend around, like there was a really big trend, I think about 2 years ago now. I think his name is Gary, where it was the hanging shot where the woman is hanging in the white curtain and she's hands back. No kidding. I went and I bought a curtain, essentially, like, a chiffon piece, tied it up, and I just laid in it. I'm like, how do clients get in and out of this? I have no idea. I'm going to do it myself. I'm not pregnant, so I know they're going to have a whole lot harder time than I am. Yeah. But you have to experience it yourself in order to direct your clients. So I think that, leading by the example and also just practicing alone when you're not in front of people is going to help you in the long run so much more.
Yeah. Yeah. And even going over all of your, like everything when you are culling and just going over, I can see when I made that change here. What was my direction that I gave? Mm-hmm. So, and mentally remembering what you've done. So you can just keep that in your arsenal. So keep teaching yourself how to be better.
Yep.
Yeah. I love it. Okay, I want to talk a little bit about efficiency and managing your photo shoots. So how many, do you have a client closet, number one? And if you do, how many outfits and outfit changes do you permit for your clients? And how do you keep it efficient?
Yeah, absolutely. This is a great question. So I do have a client closet, and we have more backdrops than dresses. I think right now I have about 50 different fabric backdrops. That is including some kids stuff, but we have a lot of stuff between silks and gowns and bodysuits. Like a lot of people, when they first come to the website, when they're picking which dresses to go for, they're like, whoa, this is overwhelming. You have a lot of stuff. Yeah. I really just want this. And they'll send me one of my images for my Instagram or something. So my process is, and this is really helpful, is I have a client management system. I'm going to shout them out because they're amazing. Yeah. It is Studio Ninja, and that I've been using them for about 3 years now. In there, I've curated a questionnaire, a contract as well, and then, of course, a processing system too. But the questionnaire is the number one thing that has helped me prepare my clients and prepare myself as well for what to expect. They can do one of two things. They get an access link to an online gallery with all of the gowns and the backdrops that we have. They can pick through there, and they're numbered 1 through 100 or whatever it may be for dresses, and same with backdrops. I tell them, just pick your top 3, because typically in a full session, I love the number 3. I love doing 3 unique different poses in each dress, 3 different dresses, and then maybe 3 special things where it may be a set, a silk, and then something and then something more unique, like using a papasan chair or something. The client closet, though, is so important because it gives them an idea of what we do have. And I always tell moms, I shop around for one size fits all as well to make sure everybody can fit no matter what your size. If it's too big on you, we'll clamp it because we're not looking at your backside. And that's why silks are amazing, because they truly are one size fits everybody. And you can use a silk in so many numerous of ways. But I'm getting a little bit off topic. So the client management system is wonderful because they can pick through usually their top 3 of each backdrop in each dress and each silk. And then we'll utilize that. And I have a whiteboard that I use, and I'll write it down. This is their favorites. They really love this look, this style, editorial, or they like the more fine art or whatever it may be. But I'm also super open to being spontaneous during the sessions because, again, it's artwork. Like, you could have processing and you can be very diligent, but when it comes down to it, if there's an inspiration during the session, I'm not going to say, well, we've met our 3 backdrops. I'm sorry. Yeah. So I do not have a limit on what my clients use, but instead I try to tell them, make sure that the backdrops that you're picking match together. That way, if they're on your walls or they're in an album, they can mesh together to create a cohesive look. Because if you use lime green, which is not a color that I shoot, and dark purple, they probably won't go together unless it's a Halloween costume. So, I also try to keep pieces in my client closet that would be cohesive with every other piece in the client closet. So lots of neutral tones, lots of earthy tones. Being able to have things that match my brand work really well because my brand as a whole is pretty cohesive. So I would say that the processing, though, and keeping efficient, the most important thing is to stay on the same backdrop until you're done with that backdrop. Because I don't know if anyone else has this issue, but when I first started out, I would put a backdrop up, it takes like 2 minutes, 5 minutes if you're without a helper. And then you shoot, and you're like, okay, I'm going to go to this idea, and I'm a squirrel, and I go to another idea.
Yep.
And then I do 2 shots. I'm like, oh, shoot, I forgot to do the silk sequence on this backdrop that I just took down. So then I have to put the backdrop up again. So I would say make sure when you are done with a backdrop and you're ready to move on to the next one, make sure that you are finished checking off everything that's on your whiteboard or on your checkoff list, because you want to make sure that you're running your session smoothly, and you don't want to waste time, precious time, with putting backdrops up and down. So I would say that's the number one thing with processing during sessions, is making sure you kind of keep it streamlined as much as you can, but also being creative and artistic.
I think my biggest struggle right now, I'm on a sabbatical from taking clients, but I think my biggest struggle, I would get so excited with maternity sessions that I would pull out. I never really let my clients pick. I kind of would design it so everything went together. I had a hard time limiting it to under 10 outfit changes in both indoor and outdoor. So my sessions were usually about 3 hours long.
Wow.
And I would shoot so many images. I would have so many setups, and my galleries were just so massive.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, but then when it came to culling and editing, I would feel so overwhelmed because I had overshot and overdone it. And so I kind of just got myself into this like really resentful place with my photography clients when it was my own darn fault of like overgiving.
Yes.
So how do you make sure that you maintain not overdoing it and keeping that for your clients so you don't ever feel resentful?
Yeah, absolutely. This is something I think all of us struggle with at one point or another, because we don't get into the industry to be business owners. We get into the industry because we love artwork and we love capturing these moments for clients. And of course, we want to give that all, right? If I have 52 dresses in my client closet and she looks beautiful in all of them, of course, I'm going to want her to wear all 52 of them. But of course, that's not efficient for us, and it's a little overwhelming for them. Yeah. And when it comes down to it, we're trying to create a Mona Lisa for someone, and you don't want 52 Mona Lisas. No. So I think I tell my clients in advance, 3 is such a good number because you're getting a good variety of things, a good variety of poses and backdrops and different colors that mesh together and different textures. But at the same time, you're not overwhelming yourself with having a huge gallery wall of just you from one session. Because when it comes down to it, you may have another baby. You may want to do newborn with your baby. Your baby's going to turn one day, and you may want to do a mommy me session. As much as important as this moment is right now, there will be more moments that will be just as important for you down the road. And for both of us, I think it's so important to just have the perfect pieces of artwork, let it be 10, 15 images, versus doing a 42 image gallery to where you look at one image and you look at another image and say, the only difference here is just the background in the dress. But the pose, the facial expression, everything is the same. So what makes it unique and what makes it one in a million? Yeah. So I think making sure that you're giving your clients that kind of mindset and also keeping it yourself is going to help you in the long run, because you're creating 1 in a million pieces of artwork. You're not creating 42 in a million. you know?
I think it's so important. It's probably so important to have that clear communication ahead of time with clients so they know how many images to expect. Even if you are shooting like 500, how many they're actually going to get. Because that is one thing that when I do try to dial it back, even though I say I'm going to give 25, I get the messages going, okay, I want more.
Yes.
Like I feel like I should get more. And that's a hard one for us as photographers, because the people pleaser in me wants to go back to everything and go, okay, well, I guess I could give like another 20.
Right.
That's another, like, right? And it's such a struggle for me to not want to people please and then to like stay within my boundaries and being like, no, this is what you commissioned me for.
Right.
So how do you deal with that? Or what advice would you have for our listeners or students that might be going through that too?
Yeah, absolutely. I think the number one thing is making sure that your brand is very obvious to your potential clients. When your clients or potential are just getting started with the booking process and they're, trying to figure out who you are, what you do, why you do it, and, what kind of artwork you go for. If you are the kind of person like I am, which really stresses to my clients, like it is quality over quantity. With me, that is what I stand by. If that does not work for you, then let's find a different option and maybe we're not a good fit. So that's the first and foremost, is I tell clients, this is how I run my business. Yeah. If you're expecting more than that, then maybe we're not a good fit. But typically people do not say that. I think once I say this kind of work that I produce is elevated, beyond just clicking a camera or taking a picture with a cell phone, then they kind of understand it a little bit more and they respect the work a little bit more as well. And then I really strive to take charge and be confident and professional with my inquiries, with the process of the shooting, just taking charge and making sure that I'm in control the entire time and not letting clients walk all over me is something that I've worked on for years, because I have been that people pleaser and I still do. I get an email where it's like, well, I asked for this many images and my budget only allows for this many. I'm like, I'm sorry, I can't give you more than what my prices are. So that is so difficult for us as artists, because again, we want to give everything to our clients because they trust us. And that's something, we've created a relationship with them. We also want the positive feedback from them to be able to get word of mouth to get more clients. So it's really difficult. It's a very fine line between making sure you're respecting your own boundaries and also making sure that you're appeasing clients. So I think having a pure structure with your brand and making sure that clients, when they see your work, they're like, okay, this is not going to be a session where I'm going to get 100, raw photos. This is a session where I'm going to walk in, I'm going to buy 3 pieces of artwork that are going to hang in my home, and maybe I'll get some digitals too along with it to share on social media, but that's it. I don't want to overdo it. So most of the clients that come to me pursue me because they don't want to overdo it. So I think creating the clear branding is super important. And then also, just during the session say, okay, this is a really great place to stop here. I think we've done enough on this backdrop. Let's not overdo it. Let's move on to the next one. Yeah. And making sure that I'm following my checklist where it's, the 3, the 3, the 3. Yeah. And it helps quite a bit.
I love that. Oh, so good. So I want to talk a little bit about budgeting. It's like our least favorite word as photographers. And it's so easy, especially when you're building your client closet or you're buying newborn props, to actually spend all of your profit and not pay yourself. So what advice and what strategies do you have for maybe our new beginner photographers or those that maybe need a little brushing up on their budgeting to staying profitable in your business?
I think every person could probably laugh at this and say, I'm not the best budgeter.
Yes.
Yes. So I feel like I have had the mindset of I will just out earn my stupidity for years. So I do number one is my struggle is my budget, because I am so quick to say, I don't need to pay myself. I really need this dress, or I really need 4 dresses in my client closet, because it will elevate me past, what I am right now, and will elevate the experience for my clients, because we care so much.
Yes.
And the thing I would say to newbies is I was right there with you. The temptation to take the $400 or $500 that I just made from a session and turn around and put it right back into my business was there for me too, and I fell for it. However, the rapid growth that it brought, as beneficial as it was, for the business, it really did not help the mental load. No. And it in the long run has made it harder for me now as a business owner to stick to a budget than to revert back to those bad habits of just spending everything that you earn. So I think keeping a strong budget in place from day one, even if you just are picking up a camera, you're like, okay, I'm going to charge $100 for the session because I've never photographed before. Take that $100 and make sure that you're, one, taking enough out for taxes, because if you're going to start a business, that has to be done. Number 2, take at least 80% of that, for yourself, because you need the self-care. You're going to need to go to the spa. You're going to need a massage, like all of those kinds of things. In the next couple of years of you building your business, you are going to be exhausted. Yeah. And it is so important for you to take some time for yourself. And that also means take profit for yourself too. So having a clear budget in place is essential. It is almost as essential as making sure you get good education as well as a photographer.
Absolutely.
Because you wouldn't work for free any other place. And so why would you do that to yourself, Yeah,
for years I worked for free, but I didn't even realize I was working for free. That was like the funny part. I was like, of course I'm making money. And my husband's like, dude, you're not making any money. I'm like, but I am. And I couldn't understand it.
Yep.
And then we actually sat down with the accountant, and they're like, so all these things that you're buying, Lisa.
My number one issue is Afterpay. Yep. I am an Afterpay addict. Hi, I'm Karli. I'm an Afterpay addict because I can cut up a $600 bill into like $200 every 2 weeks, and it's totally fine. But it really isn't.
No. Or we do photographer math where we're like, okay, this dress is like $400, but if I use it like 20 times, it's like only $20 a...
Yeah, exactly.
So that's like, what a deal.
I'm so bad about that.
Wait a sec, that's not a deal.
Yeah. But I'm like, I just booked 4 sessions today. That's 4 $250 sitting fees. I could buy 4 dresses with that money. It doesn't exist.
No. The limit doesn't exist.
Exactly. It's so bad. And I think it's hard because we're so excited to build our empire, because every single photographer out there can probably attest to this, that this is our baby. Like this is our entire world, our entire career. We've put everything, our whole self, mind, body, spirit, blood, sweat, tears into our businesses. And at the end of the day though, if you're not filling your own cup financially, spiritually, mentally, especially financially, because that's the first thing to go for me. When I first hired my assistant, and she's full-time with me, she's been with me for 2 years. When I first hired her, I took a 100% pay cut for 12 months. And it was the hardest thing on my marriage and on the business as well, because I was coming to work with a $0 salary, working my butt off for a whole year, and also training too. But I almost prioritized paying my employee over my rent, myself, my business expenses, which, I mean, it does say something about how much I care about her, as an assistant, which she is absolutely wonderful, worth every single penny. But I could have not spent elsewhere.
I know.
I am a coffee queen. I could have eaten from home every single day. I did not have to do the lunches, and I did not have to, do the big expenses that I thought I needed in order to grow on top of hiring an assistant. So once I did find a good accountant and I stuck to a really good budget, I think that is what really helps, because just because you made $15,000 in a month does not mean you have to spend all of that. And but there is the thing called a zero-based budget, that is really helpful, where every single dollar is allocated to something. And then you'll start seeing trends. The first couple of years, you'll probably go up and down and up and down and have no revenue for months, which is fine because you're just starting out. But after a while, once you see trends, like for me, every single October is dead as a doornail. It's nuts. Every October is the slowest I've ever seen in my life. I know what to expect for, so I know to add that into my budget. So it definitely helps. Make your budget, stick to it, which is the hardest part. You can make a budget, but sticking to it is the hardest thing. And every dollar adds up. Every coffee, every small, fabric that you go to buy from Joann Fabrics, all of those things will add up and will just eat away at that budget.
I think for me, like when I see these up and coming photographers, but you see these like massive studios full of all like the props and the blankets and the wraps and the hats. A little part of my heart breaks because I know what the cost personally that probably was, even though like I don't know if they're making enough to cover that. And then it makes me wonder, like, how are things at home? Right? It really makes me think. And because I've been there. I'm in the same boat. Like, it did horrible things to my marriage too, and it wasn't fun.
Yeah. It's a hard conversation to have too, with someone who is so hell-bent on, on pushing their career further, because we all deserve that, of course. Yeah. If you have the drive and the work ethic to make it happen, you deserve the world. And absolutely, you definitely deserve it. But I feel the same exact way when I see students or clients students or other photographers who have huge client closets, full of dresses that are $500, $600, $700. All of that has to come from somewhere. And even if it was on a loan, that loan still has to be paid back someday. And exactly, what is that doing in your home? What is that doing for your mental health and your mental load? And it's easy for those of us who have been in the industry for a long time to fall into that as well. I mean, just recently, I just went through it again because I sold, backdrops that I had for D-Stash, and immediately was like, I'm going to go buy all of this new stuff, because you want to stay relevant. You want to stay in the trends. You want to make sure that you're appeasing your clients.
And you want that dopamine hit of buying something.
Exactly, which is the ADHD.
Because we are lonely as photographers.
We are very lonely, yes. And so sometimes our props and our dresses become our friends. Yep. And we want more friends. We want more props and more and more and more until we just have more than anyone else.
And you're going, I don't like you guys. You're mean.
I want to know who's cleaning all that because after a session, I don't know about you, but after a session, my studio is a bomb went off. It's bad.
I'm Hurricane Lisa, like literally.
Yeah, it's bad.
Nothing gets hung on hangers. My assistant Corinne, she was like, oh, look at these hangers for the hats. I'm like, dude, like, you know me, I'm never gonna hang that up unless you're there. Right?
Exactly. That is exactly how I am with my assistant. I'm like, hey, we have a session tomorrow, and I know you weren't in for the last session on Friday. It was really bad. I'm gonna need you to go in. Please pick up after me because I am a mess. And she's really is though amazing about making sure the studio looks spick and span every single time. But I did stop myself after a while. I think with newborn, once I reached one thing of every single color, for the bump blankets and one wrap and one of each. I think that's a good goal. Even if it's just one of each, color of the rainbow, to have just that small amount first will help you get started. Yeah. And also, don't feel like you have to buy brand new too, because now that the industry is so well established for the prop industry, you can find D-Stash groups everywhere. And those props are still in really good condition because we are nice to our props.
We are nice, and we like wanted them to retain value so we can pass them forward. Have you seen the Hello Little? They had these like, what were they? They were buckets with these like...
Yes, the wraps.
Mm-hmm. Yes. I was like, that is brilliant.
It is brilliant.
Right?
Yeah.
It is brilliant.
Yep, because one wrap will last the entire time.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's amazing.
I love it. Love it.
Me too.
So let's talk a little bit about prioritizing self-care and well-being to avoid burnout in this demanding profession. So do you have any advice on that?
Yes. Short answer is I don't as much as I should. But I would say my number one favorite thing to do is probably just dive into video games, which not a lot of people know that about me. I love video games.
Like
And
Oculus or like,
no, like Nintendo Switch is a big one. So anything Zelda related, like Legend of Zelda is my favorite one. And getting to go into like a whole nother world of adventure is by far my favorite thing to do. So I think self-care, video games, having just time to myself, like to do nothing, reading books is wonderful. A lot of bubble baths, a lot of drives with the coffee in the morning. I live off of my coffee. And meditation is a big thing for me too, yoga. I would say the one thing that's super beneficial is waking up a little bit earlier in the morning just to have 5 minutes to set intention for the day, to make sure that I have my priorities straight for the day and have a to-do list, because that helps me not run around like a chicken with my head cut off. But I think as I say those things, I think, man, it's been a while since I've done some of that stuff for me.
I know, right?
When's the last time I went to my yoga class? But I've been practicing for years. You know, it's so easy to get into the run of the motions, the day-to-day experiences, and not do those things for ourselves, because it's the first thing that can go.
I know.
So I think everybody struggles with that, not just me. So I definitely think that self-care is extremely important. And I'll tell that to myself. I'll watch this podcast again and be like, okay, well, I told myself it's important, so I got to do it.
You know what I set up for myself just this week? Because I have this incredible light that it actually makes it look like it's underwater. It was like $16 from Brookstone, and I got it at like our home sense store. And in the dark, it makes it look like you're underwater. So have you heard of like the Boo Box, I think they're called?
Yes.
Boo Box, where like these guys are making these boxes. I was like, I'm going to make a bath box. And actually it's a bath basket of like I do body scrub, like all these yummy things like chocolates. I put my speaker in there, this light. I've got some like LED candles, bath salts, like all the yummy things that I could have in the bath. And I have it all ready to go in this box. So when I want to go have my like luxury bath, it's like not grabbing everything. It's like ready to go have this like spa experience for myself.
Oh, that's so nice. Yeah, that
like,
sounds like bliss.
Bath box, like make a bath box.
I think I'm going to, because the bath is always been the number one thing that can relax you. It's the hot water, the smell of the lavender, it's just everything about it kind of just pulls you away and your mind away from the day-to-day, which, I mean, on top of owning a business, almost all of us, especially female photographers, are moms. We're moms of young children that are still in school, or we were once, and now we have grandkids. So we are all women who devote our whole lives to other people. So making sure that we do those things for ourselves is imperative. Otherwise, burnout is imminent.
Absolutely. Absolutely. All right, you ready for our lightning round?
Yes.
Okay. Coffee or tea?
Coffee.
Favorite TV show as a kid?
Rugrats.
Last thing you did for yourself as an indulgence?
Probably coffee. Coffee's always my indulgence.
Coffee. Okay, and what's your coffee order?
Pumpkin spice latte. I am the basic one.
I love it.
Yes.
Morning person or night owl?
Morning.
Nice. What did you want to be when you grew up?
A doctor, actually. Yes. Always wanted to be a doctor.
What 3 things do you want to be remembered for?
My kindness, my passion, and my resilience.
Love it. Favorite movie?
Princess Bride.
Same.
No way.
Yes. You need to meet my friend Bobby. I had her on the show too. The whole episode was about the Princess Bride.
Oh my gosh.
We worked so hard and we laughed so hard. Yes.
That's amazing. I've been wanting to do a styled shoot based off of Princess Bride.
Yes. Do it.
I love Princess Bride. Everything about it. Yes. As you wish.
I know. Anybody want a peanut?
That's awesome.
Dear. Oceans or mountains, and why?
mountains, live here. And actually I have best of both worlds. We have oceans and mountains, but I would much rather hike a mountain than swim in the ocean.
Love it. What is something you've accomplished as an adult that your younger self would be proud of?
Honestly, probably everything that I'm currently doing. This whole photography, education, everything about it is something that my younger self would look at me and go, there's no way we made that. There's no way we made it this far. I'm like, yeah, we did. We did.
You know, I love it. What has been the best piece of business advice you've ever been given?
Ooh, probably. Oh, I have to think about this one. Okay. Make sure that the friends that you have are willing to pay full price. Yes. The friends that you have will support you through and through and will not ask you for discounts. There's a difference between you willing to give a discount to someone you love and those of people taking advantage of you.
Yeah. And those expecting free sessions and being your friend because they want free sessions.
Exactly.
I've been through that and it's extremely painful. It's extremely painful. Yeah. When you realize people are just in it to take advantage of you.
Absolutely.
It's heartbreaking. Yeah. Where can our listeners learn more from you?
Okay, so I have Instagram, Facebook, everything like that for the studio, for my professional site. For students who are interested in more, you can actually find it on my website. There's a tab that says for photographers, and you can go under there, and there's mentoring, everything that you need.
And you're going to be teaching for the online newborn retreat this coming January. So can you share what you're going to be teaching?
Yes, I am so excited for this. So I've actually been dreaming of being on the Milky Way probably since I started, because when I started, I always knew my final evolution. I wanted to be an educator, and Milky Way was one of the first steps in education that I ever took. So I took Milky Way when I was first starting. So if anyone out there is thinking about it or on the fence, you have to do it because it is such a good benefit. So Lisa, everything that you do is fantastic. You change worlds. You did with me too. So that's the first stop. I know, I'm sorry. But I am going to be teaching a transitional posing flow. I actually call it the 1-2-3 method. So I'm coining that term right now, which is wonderful. I believe that every limb and part of your body that is in, or a model's part, a pregnant mom's part of their body can be utilized. So being able to identify those as numbers and being able to move them in different areas of the body will help give you more ideas and also be spontaneous and unique and not be stagnant or stuck during your sessions. That way you're not like, oh, let me go look through my Instagram saved and try and come up with a pose, because you could create a new pose. Because I did the math, and between the 3 limbs that I use, that are just the basic, 1-2-3 method, you can get 60 different combinations of posing, which is amazing. So I'm really, really excited for this, because when I came up with it, I'm like, I already do this. This is stuff that I've done my whole, career once I started figuring out how to pose. And now when I put my ADHD thoughts onto paper, I'm like, oh, this is going to help so many people. So I'm so excited because posing is so important, and being able to know and, take charge over your sessions and be confident is everything.
We are so excited to have you.
Me too. I can't wait.
So I love to end my interviews just with this last question. And it is, what are you currently curious about or artistically curious about?
Okay. I would say artistically, I have been very, very interested in Renaissance art, and specifically the way that they did their oil paintings and the way that they would paint light onto their subjects is so immaculate and so beautiful. And I think a lot of us, because that actually was the time of Rembrandt, Rembrandt lighting is the number one thing that photographers use in studio lighting. We look for the triangles, and that is in the paintings. So it's like, if we could take that somehow and maybe study the knowledge of Renaissance painting a little bit more and apply that to, especially those of us who have a style similar to mine, which is very Renaissance, fine art, all of that kind of stuff. I think that it can just push us that much further. So history is always very important to me. I love history. I love learning where we come from. And I think that it has shaped who I am as an artist today, because there are so many artists that I've looked up to in the past. So I'm definitely curious more about what their inspirations were, how they would pose their subjects and how they would light their subjects. And of course, it goes beyond just like a Bridgerton episode where you watch somebody getting painted.
Bridgerton.
You know, I know, but those people were actually there. They were posing for hours to get that one photo, you know, and like, how did they do it? And what did they do to give their subjects those extremely natural but breathtaking posing and facial expressions? Because that's what they captured an essence then that I think we all strive for now. Mm-hmm. So that's what I'm looking forward to.
I wonder if like Mona Lisa liked her picture. If she was like,
I did too.
Right? Is that a good smile? Is that what I look like? Like, maybe I didn't smile with my eyes. Like,
I know, like you made my brows a little bushy. Like
right?
I kind of, my face is a little mad. Am I normally that mad?
Why are there no catch lights?
Exactly. Those are all things that, like, I think learning from our past, our history, especially because a lot of people don't realize that has inspired so much of today's, work.
Yes.
I think that it definitely would benefit all of us to kind of learn a little bit more about where artists come from, because we are artists. We're just digital artists.
Yeah, completely. Well, Karli, thank you so much for this conversation. And it's
been
so fun.
Yes, I had a blast, and it's so cool to talk to other creatives, because like you said, it can be a lonely world out there, and we need friendships. And so this, this hour has just been great for me too. I needed it today.
Oh, my beautiful friends, I hope you have enjoyed this conversation just as much as I have. I'm sending you so much of my light and my love today and every single day. We'll see you next time.